I want to talk to you today about karmic life lessons. Karmic life lessons are like the stepping stones to each of our individual journeys through self growth or evolution. But I don't want the term or the phrase karmic life lessons to be off-putting for any reason. I'm not using the phrase with any sort of religious pretense. What I mean simply is that each of us goes through life soaking up personal experience from which we learn. And the lessons that we learn are based around our personal experience, almost as if they are tailor-fitted by life itself. Just for you, just for me, right? And as a result of this, we each have our own different perspectives, our own way of viewing the world around us. So I can sit in my living room with a group of friends and we can all watch the same movie. And at the end of the movie, each of us can pin down different underlying themes or symbolism that was present throughout the movie that other members of the group were not initially aware of. And this isn't because of the movie, right? The film stays the same every time you watch it. The only difference is perspective, the way that the movie is weighed against personal experience. I believe that we can identify our personal karmic life lessons simply by becoming aware of the themes that life presents to you directly through your personal experience. Like the way you see the world is unique to you for a reason. But in order to kind of get deeper into that, I'm going to have to share with you some of my own personal experience, right? Some of the themes that I've been able to identify in my own life. And I hope that some of you that watch this will be able to sort of relate in a way. And I hope that I can make sense of this here. So, growing up, as far back as I can remember, I've always felt like there was a reason for me being alive. Like, I've always felt as if I have a purpose. And if I didn't have a purpose, then God or the universe or whatever you want to call it simply wouldn't have allowed me to exist in the first place. But it was more than that. I felt like I had a greater destiny to fulfill. And I remember when it happened. I got sick when I was younger, and I took some time off of school, and my mom, she brought me a book. It was the first Harry Potter book. And eventually I gave up, I gave in, I read the book, okay? And then I read the whole series. And then I prayed for years to get a letter from Hogwarts. My entire life I felt like through some random string of events, I would be pulled away on some adventure to a faraway land where I would have the opportunity to prove myself, to become the hero of legend or of myth, right? And that was the first theme that I could identify in my life, that I had a purpose for being here. Now, I also felt like the world in general, but specifically the people in the world, all wanted to change me. They all had some form of an ideal image that they wanted me to conform to, really. Everyone had these big plans for me, these big plans for my future that I never agreed to, that I had nothing to do with, right? And because of this, I had a general dislike of authority. I hated being on a schedule. I don't like being told that I have to be somewhere for a certain amount of time and effectively when I'm allowed to go home. Like, it just sort of rubs me the wrong way. So I've always sort of went against the grain and been different or weird, right? Or had attitude problems. But at some point, I realized that no matter how hard I lashed out or fought against my life circumstance, it sort of pushed back at me with equal force, and I would make no progress. And at some point, I began to feel like a passenger in my own car, like just an extra in someone else's production. I began to feel like an NPC in a way. I had relinquished all personal control. I was simply acting on subconscious programming, really subconscious behavior and thought patterns. And then I began to notice this theme gradually developing in my life, manifesting in the people around me. And what I mean is, I would go to work, right? And certain coworkers would be conspiring to abandon the job in hopes of furthering their education, to better themselves, to get ahead in life. And then some of them actually did it. And other coworkers were going through these massive personal transformations due to like diet and exercise. Other people were really getting into a personal hobby and finding some sort of happiness or fulfillment in it. Except for me, it was just happening all around me. And then I would go home and I would turn on the TV, and it was like every movie that I watched or every show that I watched had this same theme that was just sticking out and just screaming in my face, okay? It was like the story would revolve around a character, usually really passive, like an average Joe type of man or woman, right? And through some, funny enough, usually negative string of events, this person is forced to undergo a complete 180-degree shift in personality, a real change in character, where they begin to realize that life is in their control, and they sort of take life by the horns, and they do what's necessary to overcome whatever challenge that's in front of them, right? And they become the hero of the story in a way. Now I'm beginning to realize that this call, this inner calling that I've always felt since I was little, is not some call to a faraway adventure, but it's in fact an invitation to go on this inner journey of self-discovery, self-mastery, self-actualization. These karmic life lessons usually present themselves in the form of an obstacle or a challenge, and they are the most difficult obstacles and challenges. And the reason why they are the most difficult is because there's nothing you can do out here. You can't just sweep it under the rug. These things are the most difficult aspects of yourself that you have to look right in the face and be honest with yourself about, and then commit to action. If you can relate to this in any way, perhaps you are receiving a call to action, right? Maybe now is the time for real change. See, I realized somewhere along the way I'd become a slave to my own mind. And so begun the process of liberation. Until the next time, I hope that you continue to free your mind.